Hi, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my craft room. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be making some birthday cards, my monthly feature where I'm using Crafty Gal's sheet load of cards to inspire a batch of birthday cards. This month I'm using the retired paper called Twinkle Twinkle, and I also picked out some cardstock that I thought matched this paper pack, and then I'm going to be using the Superstar stamp set from Fawn as well as its coordinating dies. So I have an A2 cut out that will be embossed. I used an old embossing folder from Stampin' Up! Sizzix collaboration, and it just has like confetti dots everywhere. This is like super retired. I've had it forever. So I did link down below kind of a similar embossing folder. But I wanted to busy up the background a little bit. I didn't want to layer cardstock on cardstock and not have anything kind of busier, I guess is the right word. So that background is embossed to create a busier background. And then for my sentiment banner, I picked my largest simple wavy banner from Lawn Fawn. I lost my medium sized one and I just haven't pulled the trigger on buying a new die set. I know as soon as I buy it, I'm going to find it, but it's been missing probably for like 2 years now. So I just need to buy a new set. For the rest of my supplies, so my pattern paper and my green cardstock, I followed Crafty Owl's dimensions on her PDF from her sheet load, and I will have her video linked down below. So head to her channel for more information about this layout. So I'm going to be using wet glue as my adhesive for these cards. For this layer, it's mostly because I have texture on that blue A2 cardstock, and I wanted to make sure that that green cardstock really adhered to the texture on the blue. So using wet glue is your friend when there's lots of texture. And then I also used wet glue for layering down these three pieces because I kind of eyeballed where they were going to be placed and evenly spaced out. So having wet glue lets you have that little bit of wiggle room in order to maneuver your pieces a little bit to make sure that they are evenly spaced. If you're a little bit more like me with your type A crafting, it just gives you an extra chance to make sure that it's placed exactly where you want it to go. And again, I'm following Crafty L's sheet load of cards to help me with exactly how I'm spacing everything out and again the dimensions. And what's really great about her printable is that when you do print it out, the sample card on the front of the sheet load is exactly an A2 size card, at least for this example. So you can use it as a guide and kind of like a ruler to make sure you're adhering everything where it should be in the layout. And finally, I'm going to glue this guy to my card base, again using that wet glue because of all that texture and because I did cut it to be exactly A2 to fit on the front of my top folding card base. It gives you that little extra time to make sure you have it centered and placed where you want it onto the card base. For my sentiment, I'm grabbing that die cut wavy banner out of white cardstock and I'm using the sentiments URA Superstar. What I really like about this stamp set is that it comes with sentiments in that outline as well as filled in, so you can kind of mix and match, or you could stamp the filled in color and then use a different color as the outline. Because they're photopolymer, you can layer really easily. Once I have my strip placed where I want it to be on the card, I went ahead and snipped off the excess, and now I'm going to grab one of my foam adhesive strips and just trim a piece to fit as best as I can behind that wavy banner. So once I get that placed, I will line that up where I like it towards the bottom of the card. Again, my sentiment strip is a little more narrow than the sample, so I'm just doing my best with placement and knowing that I want to add some cute little critters to my card, or a critter to my card. So let's go ahead and jump over to the stamping and coloring of that. So I've picked my mouse that's sitting down and going to be looking out of its telescope, as well as the telescope, a star and a little speech bubble, because I'm going to have the star have a little sentiment. So I've stamped it on some alcohol marker friendly ink, and I'm using my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. and my Express It cardstock, which is also alcohol marker friendly. Lots of alcohol marker stuff around here. And I'm going to start by using my muted browns to color in my mouse. So I will weave in my coloring this time, but I used MB3, MB2, and MB1 to color in my mouse. I'm going to be very jumpy in my editing in order to keep things quick, and you can see all the different steps without taking up too much time, because I know sometimes coloring takes a while, so it is sped up to ×2, and again, just jumping from marker to marker. So once I finished coloring in my mouse's body, I did use a cream color to fill in the stomach and ears, and blush for the nose and cheek. And then I'm going to be using golden yellows as well as my CT yellow to fill in the star. This will give my star a gold yellow color. I know it's kind of a weird mix, but I'm also going to be covering it with some embellishment later, so it's just to really bring out a sparkly yellow color on my star. And then for my telescope, I'm using my GT's 321 in order to color in my telescope. I thought it kind of matched the poolish blue color of my card. I just wanted to really tie in those colors as best as I could without adding too much new color. So the star is probably what's really going to pop off of this background and this card, because it's the only color that's not found in the paper pack that I used. Once I have all of the coloring, I'm going to grab a white gel pen and just add some highlights to my mouse, star, and telescope. I probably didn't really need to do the star because it will be covered with an embellishment, so you could skip that step if you're duplicating this card. And then I also use my white gel pen to cover anytime I accidentally go outside the line with my coloring. And then finally a wink of Stella in clear, and I put that over my telescope to give it a more metallic, shiny look. I also have a happy face that I'm stamping on top of my star, and the sentiment that my star will say is "Make a wish." And let me grab my die cuts. I'm gonna actually die cut this on camera because I wanted to show off the cute little Huffy Doodle die cut machine. I love how tiny it is, and it fits on my desk so easily, and it's perfect for little cutouts like this. I also probably could have done my wavy banner, but I definitely like doing my smaller die cuts on this little machine. So I'm going to run that through, and then we will pull those off and pop out the sentiments. I'm just using scrapbook.com's mint tape to help me hold those die cuts in place while I cut them out. And there you can see all 4 of those cute little stamped images, and now we can adhere them to the card. I'm using a mixture of the scrapbook adhesives thin foam squares as well as just some standard foam dimensionals to just kind of have different layers on my card. So my telescope is using the thin one, and that way it will tuck a little bit behind my sentiment banner. And then for my mouse, it will be a thicker foam square or foam dimensional, and he will layer kind of on top of the banner and the telescope. And again, just to add a little bit of fun with the dimension, I'm going to use a thicker foam adhesive for the star as well, kind of pointing it so it looks like the telescope is aimed at it. And then I'm going to use another thinner foam square for my sentiment and tuck that next to the star. So now that's done, I'm going to stamp the inside of my card. For this one, I used Have a Stellar Birthday and used the thicker Stellar as well as that VersaFine Twilight Blue ink again, just like the front. And I'm going to leave that propped open a little to give it time to dry. And then we'll move on to the embellishments of the card. For the embellishments, I chose one of my sparkle blends. This is Sassy Unicorn. It has a lot of the similar shades of pink and blue found on the pattern paper, so I'm picking a bunch of different sequins that I like and just adding them in various spots on my card using their jewel picker. And then I'm actually going to grab my pops of color in Snowflake, which is just a clear glitter embellishment, and I'm using that to glue down my sequins rather than just wet glue. And that's because my pink sequins that I chose actually have kind of a larger hole in the center, so I wanted to use a sparkly embellishment to add these, so that way there was more shine coming up through the center of the sequin. So using that instead of wet glue to adhere all of those down. Once I get all those in place, I'm going to use that same sparkle embellishment to completely cover my star to make it really shiny and really gold looking. And that will finish up my card. I hope you enjoyed watching my take on Crafty Show Us Your Sheet Load. Again, I will have her video links down below where you can watch her video and figure out how to get the PDF yourself. Now I'm off to finish making the rest of my cards. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!